I didn't smoke cannabis for an entire month for a variety of reasons, of which we'll get into, but I didn't expect some of these things to happen. So I had to bring a friend on and kind of chat about it. So there's a lot of different things I want to chat about, like what it's like to go the entire month without cannabis, but then what is the difference? So I've got a little graph here. Me and my friend are going to talk about it. Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your cannabis business podcast. I've got Baked and Awake here to talk about this. Steve Kaminsky, thanks for being back with us.
Glad to be here with you today, my friend. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I want to kind of share this little graph that I created with some data. So I've got a Fitbit, and so I've got this graph here in minutes. So the amount of sleep that I got is the average day per minute, or minutes in a day that I got in sleep, as well as rapid eye movements, and then light versus deep sleep, and then a Fitbit sleep score. So I've tested out using cannabis. I do use cannabis, so that was easy to test out. So I've got like 25 days of data for that, and then 25 days of no THC at all. Now, I did use CBD as kind of a crutch to kind of get through like the first couple of weeks or whatever. And then I had no cannabinoids for I think like 11 days. And then we'll kind of compare sober October over that. But here's kind of a graph overall of what we're going to dive into.
Interesting. Yeah. I love that you're able to pull this all from the Fitbit data. It's great.
Yeah. Well, it's not going to be like too accurate or whatever, but, it'll be consistent, I guess. So kind of diving into what sober October was like. I got to tell you, man, like the first 3 days was crazy. I was in a bathtub, basically just soaking, like thinking, man, I'd really like a hot tub right now. I don't know what it was, man, but not having cannabis for 3 days was probably the Snickers bar and the bullshit I was eating, like the dairy and the gluten and the like stuff I shouldn't be eating. And I was like, came back and kicked me in the ass. So yeah, not too good the first part of October, but looking at it here, some interesting part that I saw was my sleep improved, or was better, I should say. Didn't improve, it decreased.
Right. It looks like our green bar is with THC.
Yeah.
And the yellow is, yep. Okay. Very good. Yeah. A little bit of a dip there in overall sleep. Not too much, but a little bit.
Pretty substantial, like the lack of rapid eye movement. I did have a lot more dreams though. So they were vivid. They weren't like pleasant dreams. There was a lot of dreams of me kind of going after bears and helping Mother Nature. Like there was a mother bear that had some cubs that needed help rescuing. Different scenarios. One was in a bear trap, and then another day one was like floating down the river and was going to drown, and I had to rescue the cub.
That's great.
Just
That's
like
interesting dreams.
random stuff. So it was like, it was intense, it was like, oh my God, is this bear going to attack me? Oh no, I got to help that. Okay, Lassie, tell me where Timmy's at in the well. And then we're running down and let's save him. And I'm like, yay. And then you wake up. But yeah, so the dreams were vivid. They weren't like really pleasant, but the rapid eye movement, I noticed, even though I had 54% less REM, and even, less deep sleep or whatever, 6% less deep sleep, I had a lot more dreams.
I guess, yeah, that is the REM number is the biggest change, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the biggest one.
On this particular graph. That's a big difference in the amount of time in REM sleep. Can I ask you, Josh, have you found historically that you dream less? Prior to going into this, did you think that you dreamed less when you used cannabis than whenever in the past you've had circumstances where you've gone dry for a little while? I know myself, the reason why I ask is because I have felt like in the past when I've gone off for short cycles, a month or whatever, like dreams did return a bit and become more vivid after a certain point. But
yeah, I think it's pretty quick. I'll still dream, but I don't remember them. Like I'll wake up and I'll go to the bathroom and be like, whoa, that was a weird dream. I have to tell, my wife about that in the morning. And then I'm like,
right, but
dream about?
by morning,
gone.
Yeah.
So I think I'm still dreaming a lot. I'm just not recalling those dreams, at all.
Probably true. Right. Like comparison. necessarily not occur, but whether or not we have the recall of it might be slightly affected.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. So this next one I kind of want to show you is what it was like to have the CBD. So I used the CBD. There was Zone In. There was also BFF, which is I forget the name of them, but they were a good one to use as well. So yeah, it really kind of reduced my urge. It also reduced any kind of anxiety or stress. It helped with the pain. So I would definitely kind of think about using some CBD topical, not topical, tincture.
Okay, a
you,
tincture.
you don't
Yeah.
you don't want to
Right.
put a topical into your tongue. It's not the same. Yeah. Yeah, right. You're just
Rub it
spreading it on like
everywhere.
no tincture. Yeah, sorry about that.
There we go.
So looking at some of the differences, again, this is 25 days of using THC versus the 14 days, the 2 weeks I used CBD as a crutch.
Sure.
So I had 5% better sleep, but 59% better rapid eye movement with THC than just CBD.
Wild. So there again, same kind of differential versus sober October. Very similar. Worse. Bigger.
Yeah, very similar. So we had better, our longer deep sleep, 74 minutes of deep sleep. And then the sleep scores that Fitbit gives you very similar. So 77 with THC and 75 with CBD. I have no idea how they calculate it, but I mean, a 3% difference is pretty null. Pretty straight.
Are we shooting for like a sleep score of 100%?
Right. Yeah, and I don't think I've ever gotten in the mid 80s. I think the best I've had is like maybe an 81.
Mm-hmm.
And so they want you to have a lot of rapid eye movement and a lot of deep sleep and a lot of REM and all that stuff. But, it's hard to get when you're broken and you're constantly waking up and it's not the same.
I was going to say your deep sleep percentage of time appears to be quite a bit lower than other periods in your pattern.
Yeah, it is. And then, so looking at this one for no cannabinoids. So I want to compare using CBD versus not using anything at all. So the last week and a half of sober October, I had no CBD, obviously no THC. So using no cannabinoids during sober October, the sleep was about the same. I had about 387 minutes of sleep with CBD and 373 with no cannabinoids. But the rapid eye movement was actually a lot better with no cannabinoids.
Yeah.
So it's 23% better with no CBD. And then I had a lot of deep sleep. So 80 minutes is significantly more, or at least 20 minutes more.
Well, and this is the first of the tables that you've presented with us where the deep exceeded the cannabinoid using periods.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. Sleep score was 75 with CBD and 71 with no cannabinoids.
So still overall was a little lower.
Yeah. And it's not great because I remember during this period, I would be waking up at 2 a.m, 3 a.m, because I didn't really have anything in my system to allow me to kind of get through those aches and pains. So I do remember this being a tough time of no cannabinoids in my system and being like, holy shit, is this month over yet? I actually had to cancel an event I was going to go to with Sean Kemp, an NBA player for the Suns. And I didn't go because people were going to be dabbing at the dab roast, and so I was like, I can be in that environment, but I chose not to because it's like,
I don't want to be in that environment without taking some dabs.
Yeah, if I have to wait 3 hours before the dab roast to start, what else am I going to do? I'm going to smoke. So I was like, I can't go.
Yeah, that would have messed up your whole. That would have taken away all of this.
Yeah, it was only like 3 days before the end of the month, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to pass. I want to go, but I'm going to golf
for science. I'm a scientist right now. Can't mess with you people.
I ended up going golfing instead the next day.
Way to go.
All right. So we looked at CBD versus nothing. Here's THC versus nothing. Sleep score, the amount of time that I slept was about 25 minutes longer. And then REM 49% better with THC than no cannabinoids. I think we're pounding that home at this point.
Right.
And then,
Right.
but again, deep sleep was so this is what's interesting to me is deep sleep. I got 9% better with no cannabinoids and THC. Yep. So basically, if you want to get really good deep sleep, you have to go kind of cannabinoid free, is what I'm seeing.
I wonder if, you know, a person could, similar to coffee, perhaps curtail their usage in the later part of the day and allow their body to ramp down, and whatever normal nighttime serotonin is supposed to be building up in our system or what have you, to foster that healthy sleep, you know, without totally going without. Those are really interesting. Those are great numbers to have pulled together, Josh. Like, it's thought provoking. Gives you pause.
Well, yeah, and the sleep scores are relatively the same, 7% difference. So a 77 with THC, 71 without. But what I find is that getting 120 minutes of deep sleep is really difficult. You know, my wife's got a Fitbit, and so we're kind of waking up. We're like, "What's your score? What's yours?" And then we look at the graphs that they kind of give you, and you're like, "Whoa, you woke up a lot." Mm-hmm. Or it explains like why I woke up a lot. You know, like if she's right next to me tossing and turning, then I understand why I didn't get such a good sleep. Or if you wake up out of REM and then no amount of coffee can wake you up, you're like, oh, that's why I'm so tired, because I woke up out of like middle of a REM cycle and then like I'm exhausted and nothing can help. You think maybe you had a bad night's sleep, but it's not. You just happen to wake up in the middle of a cycle.
You're dipping back into that cycle. Yeah.
Yeah. So the best thing for that point is maybe take a nap, because otherwise your day's ruined. So
right.
Some interesting stuff as I've kind of been looking at this. But
so a couple of test subjects we could analyze for like a whole year.
Right.
It'd be great. I'm not volunteering for that study.
No, this was annoying enough trying to do it for a month, you know. But I did try to get some specialists on, some, you know, sleep specialists out of the UK and someone else out of LA. I don't know, maybe being a cannabis business podcast, they didn't know what the hell I was talking about, but essentially this is kind of what I wanted to do, is just run through it with somebody and find out, you know, impressions or thoughts or whatever, because sleep is important. A lot of people use cannabis and CBD for nighttime. I had a couple of friends of mine reach out to me just this last couple of months and ask, hey, what can I use for sleep? And I couldn't really give them straight CBD as an option, because I don't think it helps with sleep.
Right.
If your mind is going, CBD is not going to shut that off. Like if you're physically in pain, man, I got some options for you. Mm-hmm. But mentally, I don't think without, you know, using a little bit of THC, even a 20-1,
right,
you know, where you're not going to get high at all, but without that THC, I don't think it's going to get your mind to shut down.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I mean, anytime I've had a pure CBD type product, there's absolutely no, to my mind, perceptible impact on like state of mind and thought processes, you know, whatever it may be doing for relief of like inflammation based pain, like chronic pains, aches and pains type things, maybe more serious matters. I've never felt like my head changed during that period at all. And so, whereas I could certainly attest to having had a, you know, a years long habit of, you know, having a nightcap puff, you know, somewhere in that last hour of the night, in preparation for bedtime, of course. Probably a couple of times in my life, I've probably asked myself if my restless night sleep came from smoking a little bit too much too late, when it had what we may have traditionally like characterized as, oh, it was too sativa, dude. It got me, you know, got my heart racing and got into my head. So I was just, you know, I had to get back up and sit in the living room and play some video games by myself after I tried to go to bed or whatever, you know. So, you know, your numbers appear to at least lightly substantiate that sort of potentiality, that sort of, if that's even a word, that sort of possibility that, you know, a little bit too much of the wrong kind of strain, the wrong cannabinoid cocktail, especially in the afternoons, in the evenings, may set some of us up for slightly less efficient rest periods that we might otherwise have if we could just mellow out, and approach our use a little differently. I mean, this is, however much we may be plant advocates and find that largely the plant works really well for us in our lives, it's good to look at something as important as sleep. You're right. I suffer from sleep apnea, as a matter of fact, and probably should have like a CPAP machine or something like that. My wife wakes me up from time to time.
It's just an elbow, like, hey.
Yeah, she's like, yo, dude, you're dying up. Yeah.
Breathe.
Wake up. So as long as I got her, I figure I'll probably make it. But it's actually really dangerous. And I think it's supposed to be rough on your heart and stuff like that. So.
And you're a thin dude. Everyone I know that has sleep apnea is obese.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how I got so lucky, but I mean, yeah, I think if it was much worse, I probably would seek some more direct methods of improving that. But I have also looked at my sleep patterns a little bit here and there in the last couple of years. I actually employed an app that tracked snoring, and literally listened to you on the bedside and would just make a note and record the snoring intervals.
Do you ever get sleep, like restless leg syndrome when you sleep? I think I get it sometimes, but I attribute it to sugar. My wife wants to attribute it to cannabis. And I'm like, nah, it's not how high I am. I'm telling you, the sugar is going through my system, and I'm like shaking my leg when I'm sleeping or something, I guess.
When I've experienced it, and I absolutely have, it's a Steve stayed up too late characteristic, and it happens in the living room on the couch towards the end of the night, and I get whole restless body, but definitely stronger in the legs. My wife definitely suffers from restless leg when she gets a little bit too tired as well. But as soon as I hit the bed and go into repose, that stuff goes away instantly. It's like my body telling me, get up, go to bed now, dude, because you're not up anymore. Whatever you're watching, you're not really watching. You're wiggling and stretching and tripping out. It's time to go to bed. So but it's an interesting thing too, isn't it? The old restless leg when that happens. For me, when I get in bed though, it's over. That's gone. Like 2 minutes less. It's just I don't have trouble falling asleep. It's that I might snore or I might just decide to stop breathing here and there throughout the night.
Yeah,
So
I bet your light sleep is terrible. I mean, you can see my light sleep versus deep sleep is 4-1. Mm-hmm. So, but let's take a look at this sleep score first. So the one on the far right here, it only ranges from 71 to 77. So no cannabinoids was at 71. That was the worst. And then next best was Sober October overall was down there. And CBD was pretty close to THC at 75 for CBD. And then THC was the highest at 77, the best sleep score overall. And again, I don't really know. I mean, I'm assuming they kind of attribute all of this stuff, but the one that pulls out the most is REM. It's a lot higher at, the rapid eye movement at 104 minutes, the average night. So that's pretty good. Versus, as low as 43 for CBD only. So somebody who wants to get really good rapid eye movement, and that's the time when your body's healing itself, right? So it's really important to do that. And if you're only using CBD, you're not going to have that opportunity, especially somebody who's older or whatever, to both emotionally and physically heal yourself. Mm-hmm. Looks like you need some THC in your system.
Right.
That's
I'm wondering what's more important, the deep sleep portion of our sleep cycle or the REM? I'm sure they're both probably just like right up there, right? I mean,
I imagine you could have a whole night of REM. That would be crazy, but I think a combination of those two is definitely important.
Well, and is the goal can we ever approach as much deep sleep time as light sleep time, or is that never going to balance out the same way? We probably don't spend as much time down there as we do closer to the surface, huh?
No, I don't think so. Throughout the night, it's going to be like an 80-20 kind of situation. At least the small sample that I've taken in a family of two. I'm not running around checking Fitbit info, but that would be really interesting if or when they go public, if they made that data available. But I'm guessing that it's more of an 80-20 light to deep sleep, but equally as important between REM and deep, kind of have that balance and be fresh. And that is the difference between being kind of alert and ready to go versus being groggy and exhausted.
It just occurs to me as we're talking about this that it is very possible, in fact, probable, that between Apple, between Fitbit, between Samsung and their the Gear, the health app and their smartwatch, um, and the existing data analytics that are tracked on all our online activity, our casual online activity.
Mm-hmm.
Each of those companies who I just mentioned almost definitely has extremely granular, very powerful reports on all these things that we're speculating on right now. Because if that's not what this biometric tracking is for them, I don't know what it is for. We've got the ostensible, overt use case or motivation that, oh, we invented this amazing technology. We're handing it to you, the beautiful people who we love, to improve your health and lives. You're welcome. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side, we know, this thing has 8 microphones in it and 2 gyroscopes and a GPS, and it's turned on almost all the time. This thing doesn't even have a home button on it anymore, so you can't get Siri without saying, "Hey Siri." You know what I mean?
And the guy
so that means you've had to, choose to enable a bunch of stuff on these things, and our watches are just as wired to these, are just an extension of them. Mm-hmm. Your Fitbit, no exception. And all that data that you get to read and appreciate for the context it has for you is the entire time also going back to the home office to be crunched, right? To be understood better for what? To better design the next watch, I guess, to better, decide what we need next to monitor better.
But there was a guy that invented a box where you put your phone and your remote and your things in there and you close it. And it was, I can't remember what he used, either a paint or some kind of metal or whatever to make a Faraday cage, basically.
Sure.
And he was basically shut down. I don't know what branch of the government it was, FBI or somebody came in and was like, no, you can't make those. And they shut him down. So he's like, sorry, I can't take orders anymore. Got to close that down. So even the little vacuum.
You can't even say something like unbelievable because it's entirely believable.
I just read an article yesterday where the little vacuums are now reporting data. So you have to get your, an app on your phone so you can follow where your vacuum's going. But then
I was at a friend's house yesterday with the smart fridge,
Oh yeah.
It's got Bluetooth speakers, it's streaming, it's, internet connected. I mean, it's real IoT right in his house,
Your faucet, everything. Faucet's listening to you. Hey, faucet, pour me some water.
Well, I mean,
keep listening to my conversations afterwards.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this up though with the best amount of sleep here with the graph on the far left. You want to definitely partake in some cannabis. Some THC is essential. Steve knows that. Get in those cannabinoids there, Steve.
Gotta have them.
Blue bar right here is THC. Obviously, this is our go-to here. 408 minutes of average sleep, followed by CBD only at 381 minutes per night. And then no cannabinoids was the worst, 387 minutes of sleep. So the average of sober October, looking at 381 minutes, I guess there. So that's it, man. THC is the way to go. So Dr. Russo talking about the entourage effect of using some THC with CBD and other cannabinoids, CBN, CBG, CBL, whatever you can find. Get it, do it, take it.
Solved. It has been said.
Yeah. So it's not a perfect study, but overall kind of getting into, sober October versus cannabinoids. I think we kind of dove into a few different options here. Maybe next time we can take a look at some other cannabinoids as well.
What I think is most important about this entire exercise is the fact that you were thoughtfully interacting with the plant and with your body during this time. So, whatever the results are, you've got some new experiences and some new perspective that you lacked going in, you know what I mean, to the experiment. And you have an opportunity to continue to, come back and revisit aspects of this or other aspects of your health. If all of us would just even occasionally switch it up from just mindlessly consuming, it could be alcohol, it could be over the counter, panacea pain relievers and things like that we tend to use without ever asking ourselves, do I even need it or not at times? Could I do something different to need less of whatever it may be? I think there's real value in that. That's conscious consumption and a bit of like self-reflection, introspection. So I think it was great. I'm glad that, of your peers, I got to hang out with you while we talked about this. And, we chatted about it a little bit recently on the Cannabis Club, I think with the other guys. And I thought that was great that you were doing it then. So,
yeah, I got through it all.
It's not conclusive. It's not conclusive, right? No. Sure. We do concede that, obviously. It's a fairly short time sample, fairly short, or obviously a very small sample of people to try it. I'll tell you what, give me a year. Let's talk about it next October. All right. Let's see what we could do in September about looking at the same kind of changes you did. I like the way you did that with ramping down using CBD for a period. Okay. As a sort of segue for our bodies that are certainly used to having cannabinoid interaction regularly. So, that's maybe something that I'd be interested in participating. I joked about it.
I got to recruit for Sober October.
I won't sign up for a year. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
I do it one time for you.
Well, that was some real baked and awake shit, man. Steve, where can they find you at?
bakedandawake.com anytime. That's my personal internet home. So we're in 2020 and 2021. It's weird. I'm on YouTube. I'm in your podcasts, podcatchers and things. But the one place that I pay the bills and the one place where I hope you'll always be able to find me, thank you guys, is come and visit me at bakedandawake.com.
That's it. All right. With that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is The Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.